It is 2024. The
2
production
years
crew
late
of the
on
new
this.
Star Wars Disney Plus series, The Acolyte, has stated they want to make the lightsabers in this prequel series on par or superior to the Darth Maul fight from The Phantom Menace. Fans naturally react, as they do with their regular level of calm.
Pushing identity politics and the message. They done woke it up. However, they expect us to tune in to see if they can beat the Phantom Menace duel with the great Lord Maul.
Darth Maul.
Star Wars is declared, for the first time, ruined forever. It is 2022.
Man, was the Acolyte really that
The
bad?
Mandalorian, the double whammy of the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, has extinguished all optimism for the future of Star Wars and television.
You were born what defeat would bring.
There is no hope that this upcoming Andor show will be any good. Star
Oh,
Wars is ruined forever.
newsflash, it's good.
It is 2019. The final leg of the sequel trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker, has just come out. And despite renewed optimism after The Mandalorian, which aired simultaneously, the Disney era of
Optimism
Star
for the
Wars...
Mandalorian. Boy, that season 1 made me question things, and season 2 just killed my enthusiasm about it. Rise of Skywalker basically cemented it as dead.
ends on a whimper. Star Wars is ruined forever. It is 2017. Star Wars is destroyed
Oh
by
my
The Last
God.
Jedi,
How-
a film that dared to deconstruct the formula.
We're doing like a straight up back in time style of everything. I mean, he did say this was when was Star Wars ruined,
People have
so
loved for decades now.
The Jedi are romanticized, deified. But if you strip away the myth and look at their deeds, the legacy of the Jedi is failure.
Star Wars is ruined forever. It is 2015. The Force Awakens has refused to innovate on the formula that has grown stale now for decades and that people have grown to hate. The only innovation is the introduction of a new female character, Rey, who quickly becomes a target of hatred among Star Wars fans. Star Wars is ruined forever. It is 2008. The Clone Wars animated movie has just hit theaters, and fans are furious. They hate the animated style that kiddifies Star Wars. The only
Really?
innovation is the introduction of a new female character, Ahsoka, who quickly becomes a target of hatred among Star Wars fans.
Who hates Ahsoka? Personally, I
Honestly,
think she's annoying. I
maybe
saw
there
the
was
film
some
version
major
of
hate that
Clone
I've just
Wars on
forgotten.
Saturday, and her voice got on my nerves. I also have seen her in the TV series. She calls R2 R2-y and Anakin Sky Guy. That not their names, you dumb girl.
If this animated slop is
you're literally berating a character for having cute acronyms for people. Granted, Sky Guy is kind of stuck in my head. I kind of like it as a stupid acronym for Skywalker. Like, it's kind of charming. And R2-y I haven't heard in a long time, but honestly, it still works. Like, it makes him a little bit more unique, but still, it's R2-D2, and you don't really need a reminder for that. Whether it be one or the other, is it really bad if the characters are shown to like the acronyms and nicknames they're being given? If anything, they kind of just enjoy it.
the future, then Star Wars is ruined forever. It is 1999. The Phantom Menace has released, kicking off a trilogy of films that quickly become the example of how to ruin a franchise. Each film is received worse than the last. The introduction of Jar Jar Binks results in a widespread hate campaign.
20 years ago, I played Jar Jar Binks in Star Wars. I faced a media backlash that really made me feel like my life was over.
Fans bully
I still don't get this whole ordeal. Hate the characters. No one's telling you don't hate Jar Jar, don't hate young Anakin, but why go out of your way to hate the actors? That is still like my biggest pet peeve. What do you gain from hating the actors? They're literally just playing the character. They're not the character. They give their face and voice for the character. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
child because they see him as the reason Star Wars is ruined forever.
Star Wars The Phantom
Nonsense.
Menace was the most
Disappointing
disappointing
thing since my
son.
son.
I mean, how much more could you possibly fuck up the entire backstory to Star Wars?
It is 1997.
For an entire generation, you've only been able to see it on a TV screen. Now, Star Wars is back on the big screen. Star Wars, the special edition, starts Friday at theaters everywhere. Rated PG.
The special editions of Star Wars have launched on VHS, thus destroying the pure legacy of these classic films. Han shoots first, and there's a weird musical number added to Return of the Jedi. Why couldn't Lucas have just left his perfect trilogy alone? Star Wars is fundamentally ruined forever. It is 1983. Return of the Jedi hits theaters, completely ruining what was otherwise shaping up to be a perfect trilogy. These Ewoks, they're just so embarrassing. Fans can't imagine it getting any worse than this. Star Wars...
Man, are people really that upset about these tiny details? Granted, if you don't like them, don't like them, but like, this repeat and rehearsing and repeating of things is really, really something, huh?
And everything it built up all this time is ruined forever. It is 1980. The Empire Strikes Back is released and fails to live up to the hype of the first film.
It's not a perfect film. Here's a cheap
The Empire Strikes Back fails to live up to the hype of the... Okay, now that's something I'm gonna have to say is some major Griffin nonsense.
And fails to live up to the hype of the first film.
It's not a perfect film. Here's a cheap-looking sequence. The movie's Cloud City. An obvious drawing there in the background. The film's one new human character is played by Billy D. Williams, the only black man in the movie, cast, it seems, in response to the charge that the first Star Wars film was racist. Romance. A movie part.
It is a meandering, boring film that critics and audiences are both divided on. Star Wars is ruined forever. It is 1977. Star Wars has been released. It kicks off a movement of blockbusters that sees to the end of the new Hollywood movement, kicking off the era of the blockbuster. Studio-driven films designed to draw in the largest audience possible. And while New Hollywood clings to relevance after the double whammy of Star Wars and Jaws, it evaporates with the release of Heaven's Gate, a film that comes out around the same time as Star Wars' follow-up, Empire Strikes Back. Cinema is ruined forever. It is 1974. George Lucas is a new, up-and-coming director with a wild script inspired by Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, and Frank Herbert's Dune. But the script is incomprehensible, downright impossible to follow.
Damn, that's a crazy poster.
The dialogue is ridiculous. The characters make no sense. No one is willing to finance what would have to be a massive bomb. Lucas's film, tentatively titled Adventures of the Star Killer Episode 1, The Star Wars, is ruined before it even has a chance to be created. That's a long way of saying that Star Wars fans, they've always been a little hyperbolic when it comes to saying that Star Wars is ruined forever.
Yeah, don't say.
And it's because every few years it appears that it's ruined again for the first time ever. There's a new way it's ruined, a new thing that destroys it entirely. The memory of the average fan is remarkably short. Whatever came out that year tends to be the only thing that matters. Dominating discussion. However, I think perspective is necessary when discussing any form of media, especially a long-lasting media franchise such as Star Wars.
This is fucking awesome.
Okay.
The reality is this: Star Wars fans exist in a permanent cycle. It's the same cycle every single time. New thing comes out. New thing not as good as what came before. Years pass. New thing comes out. Old new thing better than they remember. New thing, that's bad. Worse than the other thing that came before it. Rinse and repeat. And there will be highlights, of course. After we got the disappointing Return of the Jedi, the Thrawn trilogy came out. After the special edition, we got Shadow of the Empire. With the prequels, we got a bunch of fantastic games. The animated Clone Wars movie led to the far better received Clone Wars series, though it took a little time to get its footing. And while the sequels remain divisive, it's clear that some of Disney's television, from The Mandalorian to Andor to even Ahsoka, has a fervent fan base.
This is the way.
The only thing we can agree
Ugh.
on with Star Wars is that no one agrees on anything, especially at what point Star Wars was ruined for them. And you know what? I don't know. As a very casual fan of Star Wars, I think the whole thing is a little ridiculous. It feels half the time that no one hates Star Wars more than the average Star Wars fan. But what's odd is also the worship of old Star Wars. Specifically, whatever version of Star Wars you grew up with.
The hype surrounding this movie has been overwhelming. Now the question is, will it deliver?
Now, I'm old enough to remember how a few years ago, everybody was making fun of the over-the-top fighting of the prequels.
So we're back to the three guys we know nothing about fighting each other in a scene we have no interest in. Their flawless choreography lacks all humanity and emotion. And then, bam!
Crazy about that is, if I remember correctly, these the battles more so with the lightsabers was literally the actors trained so well, they were so fast they actually had to slow down the footage because they were too fast. That's crazy.
Oh, that's right back to highly choreographed fighting. Hey, remember when Luke Skywalker got really pissed and snapped when Vader was taunting him? He just started wailing on Vader. There was no grace or complex choreography.
There were all these unnecessary swings and flurls and flyings and twirls and non-stop.
I mean, it was epic. Granted, I don't know. It's like, on the one hand, the characters were kind of bland, but on the other hand, can you really say the action didn't deliver, I guess?
It was theatrics that had more to do with an Errol Flynn fight than any actual combat in real life. But now we see more realistic, grounded fights, and people make fun of that. That's not to say that all the Disney-era fights are good, far from it, but they feel a little more real than, say, the ballerina dancing of the prequel fighting. The formulaic nature of The Force Awakens is what led a lot of people to criticize it, but then The Last Jedi changed that formula, and now it's worse?
Let me start this review by saying, fuck this movie. Fuck this movie and fuck everyone in it.
Yes, undeniably the sequels are plagued with pivoting.
What even is he talking about?
The final film.
I like how it was taken out of context. I didn't even know what movie he was talking about.
The Rise of Skywalker feels like a desperate attempt to compromise with fans, but it's not like the fans knew what they wanted in the first place, because they keep pivoting back themselves with the criticisms. After all, if fans were that upset by the stiff sword fighting of the new films, they could go back to the originals, which had even stiffer combat.
That fight, man, it was just something on another level. We had never seen nothing like that. And the closest thing was the fight between Luke and Vader in Empire Strikes Back.
Lucas has stated multiple times that he was not satisfied with how the original films turned out, stylistically especially. Hence all the special edition updates. And while many of the changes were undeniably bad and made the film worse, not all of them were. In fact, some actually make some sense. Some decisions to make Star Wars feel bigger, when Lucas isn't just cluttering the screen with aliens and animation, they do work. Mos Eisley stops feeling so empty. Cloud City feels more expansive by just giving them windows and things going outside. Granted, Mos Eisley also feels cluttered with aliens wobbling around on screen and blocking the cinema, but, you know, the stuff that works, works. Some does not, including Jabba the Hutt, for example, is completely superfluous to the original film, but it does add like a sense of he's there, which I guess is something. That's worth something. These films are benchmarks for staggering advancements in special effects. Even back then we knew that. But Lucas always felt he was stunted by the potential of effects and always wanted to push further and further. And I respect that.
Yeah, it's
I
not
don't
bad.
agree with where he went with those effects, but I respect the ambition. What a lot of fans need to appreciate, however, is that everything is basically aligned with how Lucas wanted it to be. Lucas supports the people in charge of Lucasfilm, and while he disagrees with certain creative choices, The overall overwhelming sense is that he's okay with what's going on. And it's made evidently clear when he backed Bob Iger during a recent attempt to boot Iger out. Kathleen Kennedy, for her missteps, is working a job that's basically impossible, and there's no way she can ever satisfy even a fraction of the people who she's working with or working for the public.
Put a chick in the linguine and make her fucking gay! And I want it lame!
You can't make all of Star Wars fans happy. No one has ever succeeded at this. Especially when she's working with the demands of the Disney corporate system. A system that requires profit, that requires increasing growth from quarter to quarter to quarter. And her misses, which they are several, are balanced by her successes. The best of which is Andor.
I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see.
Andor is the best Star Wars thing to have come out since... honestly, it's the best Star Wars thing, period, in my opinion. Every bit of Star Wars has its merit, sure, but Andor feels like great science fiction, not just great Star Wars.
It's the one that literally feels the most mature, let's just put it like that, in comparison to everything else nowadays. That's literally it. It's just the more mature version of all the other shows. No other can hold a candle to it. I think it has a season 2, but granted, no one likes it because it's not whimsical enough.
And I can go into detail there, but I'd rather look at the conversation surrounding Andor rather than the merits of a show that we've all seen.
It's just whatever. It's honestly a kind of a forgettable show. Look, acting was great. Cinematography was great. The writing was good. But it was a lot of little things. I mean, when we saw the camera in the previous episode, there were like screws in the wall. When we see certain architecture, it's just bricks. It's not smooth stone or sandstone or whatever it might be that was in the prequels or the originals, which kind of gives you the feel of Star Wars. The whole thing about Star Wars is to feel like it's from a galaxy far, far away. It didn't do that.
Who is this mongrel and why do they always bring him up?
The feel of Star Wars. The whole thing about Star Wars is to feel like it's from a galaxy far, far away.
Every time I watch a Star Wars movie, there's something new to notice, especially to catch it on the big screen. The latest discovery that New York is visible on the bottom of Luke's lightsaber. Empire. What? New York? What is... Huh? Wait, he might be onto something. Hold on. I guess the batteries and stuff like that. There is something there. Too blurry to see, but maybe it might actually be that. Huh. That's, I mean, I don't blame it. That's fun. There's a little bit of a all the way back in the days, but that was all the way back in the days. I can't exactly say I blame them for having these little hiccups. It's kind of funny, though.
A lot of fans want the old Legends expanded canon back because, well, there's many reasons.
Nah, I mean, Legends was fun. I'm gonna say that, but it was... Let's just say it had very interesting ideas and some very, very, very ambitious agendas, to say the least. Again, granted, it had its fair share of good stuff, but man, the chaos there is, let's just say the chaos gods wish they were this malignant or something like that. They make Korn, Siege, Slaanesh, and Nurgle look like afterthoughts in that Legends expanded universe. Again, granted, it's because mainly I have some games and stuff and whatnot that I liked about Legends that I want returned, but to say that it needed back, maybe if it was like properly refined and reused, I guess, in the new canon, I'd be fine with that. Because, like, some ideas were good. Thrawn was definitely good in those old books. Other stuff like the Empire surviving and the Imperial Remnant and whatnot. But, again, that's like so many other stories, and I have my gripes with that series. Especially with a certain super weapon. A certain super weapon that is so busted it took 3 black holes to destroy, and it tanked Death Star lasers at point blank. Oh, the Sun Crusher. May that weapon never return, please. Granted, the story tied to it was pretty dope, but I do not wish that weapon to be reintroduced in any way, shape, or form. It was straight up Sith spit. Ugh.
It's what they grew up with. And quite frankly, some of the illustrations and artwork for those book covers, they're ingrained in my memory. I remember going to the library as a kid and seeing these guidebooks and seeing these incredible volumes just...
Yeah, the artwork was really
back
cool.
When it was mainly the Thrawn trilogy and a few other comics. It's always occupied this space of passion, the space of magic. But, it had these epic heroes and compelling villains. But as the Disney era continues, we're seeing many of the old Legends ideas incorporated into the expanded Disney universe.
And they flopped at it. Like, if you don't know anything about the Legends, TLDR, Palpatine returning was done in Legends 2. Like, no cap. Like, he literally returned in Legends as well. They even had, like, a whole bonkers arc where Luke turned to the dark side to join Palpatine. The Empire was practically going out of its way to destroy other worlds similar to the Star Destroyers with Death Star lasers, although that Legends had a much more unique super weapon, a much more, cooler super weapon in terms of concept and execution. Like, I really like those World Devastators. Yeah, the World Devastators. Those were dope as a super weapon. And then he, was kind of returned officially with, as a clone or something. Like, it was convoluted. It was convoluted, messy, but I guess it was kind of fun to read through it just as, a canonical what-if scenario, I guess. It still, technically speaking, is a part of the story, what happened, and subsequently what led to other stuff transpiring in this Legends continuity, but again, we're literally getting distracted right now. But yeah, TLDR, they literally took the Palpatine coming back from Legends, put it in a movie, and then somehow made it worse. How do you take a plot that was already convoluted and messy that somehow worked because of the what-if scenarios and make it infinitely worse? How do you achieve that? I don't even know what to say except Shab. For real, Shab. I don't know.
Fans, rather than be happy that the Legends canon is being reincorporated in part to Disney, are upset. In fact, some of them hate it. And sure, some ideas that are presented in the Disney canon aren't as successfully incorporated as they were in the original Legends canon. That's undeniable. But many are of comparable quality.
This is the quintessential hero whose journey from a farm boy on Tatooine to a Jedi Master saving the galaxy is nothing short of legendary.
The Jedi are romanticized, deified. But if you strip away the myth and look at their deeds, the legacy of the Jedi is failure.
The problem is that that fans have either mythologized the old canon in their brains, or they got their information from a secondhand source, like a YouTuber that's just reading off of Wikipedia. Because let's be honest, and this is a tough one, the books that you all worship, When was the last time you actually read them? Because
I have. I even have like one with the certain super weapon that I mentioned, and I like the story with the beginning of the book, I guess. God, I can't remember the title, but I have it like back there in the library behind me. But aside from that, I haven't read it at all. Like, I have a more modern version with Han Solo, but that one's like a separate adventure. We also have another one with Han Solo. I really do like the stories with Han Solo, huh? But yeah, aside from like those two, I haven't read anything from like, or can't remember things from the past. And even then, most of them are from video games. Like, I barely read some of the books and stories there. Granted, they were kind of fun, but they were, like I said, messy and rough. Like, sometimes they would literally just make things worse for the sake of it. And again, like I said, with the whole Palpatine returning in Legends was done beforehand, that was like a whole... I don't even know what to say. It's not even spaghetti. Spaghetti at least would be delicious in some way, shape, or form. It's more so like vegan spaghetti. Vegan spaghetti with vegan meatballs. Let's just say it like that. It's a convoluted artificial mess that I wonder how the hell it was made. Plastic spaghetti, even better, would be a good description. But yeah, it's messy. Granted, I don't remember much of it, but I do know it was messy. And the only reason I'm fond of it is because I still play like the old games that I remember. And even then, canon there is even messier.
they're not of equal quality. They're not these masterpieces.
Oh, and far from it.
Are just cheap pulp novels.
Legends also gave him a more rounded personal life, adding elements like his relationship with Mara Jade and his role as a father, not to mention the absolutely bonkers force powers that he learned.
Wait, what?
Absolutely bonkers force powers that he learned.
Not to mention incest, abuse, and weird clones. Oh yeah.
A great example of what I'm talking about is Darth Plagueis. How many people have actually read that novel?
None. I literally just remember it from the meme and subsequently the stuff that they make jokes about. I also remember a video that covered Darth Plagueis, but aside from that, I have never been that interested in Darth Plagueis. Feels like a cheap, very cheap, just to be there to explain how Sidious gained all his powers. Not exactly that interested in hearing out his entire story, much less reading it.
Helen, it's a villain before Palpatine, which set up the whole events of everything that transpired in the trilogies. The idea of the Sith Lord is more compelling than the character that we see in the novel. I mean, after all, a ton of people theorize Snoke would be Plagueis just to tie him in with the greater Star Wars mythology. But who has actually read the book? Because I have. And it's not good. I would even argue the book might even be bad. It gets into the weeds regarding intergalactic banking schemes, and it fails to tell a compelling, character-driven story.
That's
and that would be
boring.
bad enough, but even the schemes themselves aren't particularly interesting. They're just sort of placeholders. It should feel like this grand tragedy, and yet it
New
feels
York
like
Times bestseller, Darth Plagueis.
like
That's
you're waiting for the
crazy.
story to get started, and it never really does. But you really can't tell that when you're watching a video where a guy tells you one version of Star Wars is good and the other is bad, while reading Wikipedia articles. A lot of Disney Star Wars lifts from the expanded universe. The Legends canon used zombies so frequently fans were sick of them. And then...
Did they? I remember them being like in the first novel, and then they had like a prequel novel, but did they ever reuse them? I don't remember using them that often. Though, yeah, in this, in Ahsoka, they did reintroduce them, and it's from the Night Sisters one, which, if you've watched, like, the Clone Wars show with General Grievous, kind of random pull out of nowhere, but, yeah, zombies are canon. Still, I don't know. I just remember the first novel and the prequel novel, which were basically just a virus, and then explaining how said virus came to be. The big difference was that, if I remember correctly, one was about stormtroopers and whatnot, and it had Han Solo in it. Man, really, I really do obsess over stories that involve Han Solo, huh? Guess he is my favorite character. I'm learning that about myself. But yeah, I do remember him being in that story with the Death Troopers, the zombie clone troopers and everything. And the prequels were literally that, but replace stormtroopers with Sith that use the Force. You know, to add that extra bit of, like, crazy terror on top of, like, if zombies shooting laser blasters weren't terrifying enough, let's give them lightsabers and them using the Force, because that'd be even crazier.
Ahsoka uses zombies. Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit in the Legends canon, and he does here too.
Oh yeah.
Even the
I mean, granted, I am glad they kind of allowed for him to come back, but at the exact same time, maybe he should have stayed dead.
Rise of Skywalker played it safest by just copying its plot from the comic Dark Empire.
Hey,
where
there we
Anakin
go.
Clones himself a bunch and tries to pull a body swap thing with Han Solo's son,
Exactly.
a la Ghostbusters 2. It was ridiculous then, and it's ridiculous now.
Huh, yeah, come to think of it, Ghostbusters 2 really did try to pull the exact same stuff, huh? Trying to possess a baby to basically reincarnate themselves. That is crazy, huh? So, wow, I never really made that connection before. It really is one and the same. The big difference is that, I guess in, what was it, in Rise of Skywalker, they kind of skipped the whole baby reincarnation thing and successful cloning to basically have Palpatine back at full power. I guess that now that I think about it, the Legends had the one with that Palpatine was on a timer, so he had to find a proper vessel to reincarnate or something like that, and he ultimately failed and kicked the bucket. Which, again, is not better, but I don't know, it's more, relatively speaking, cohesive.
But the reason why the Dark Empire isn't widely criticized today is because it was a comic. It wasn't a massive blockbuster. It wasn't the culmination of a trilogy of trilogies, and a lot of people didn't actually read it.
True.
The key difference
True.
between the Legends canon and the Disney canon is that Disney is putting the resources in to make these into big budget television shows. They may be rushed, the vision may be compromised in some way to meet the corporate message of Disney, but they're getting a lot of money and thus being put in front of a lot of people. And sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're not. The problem here
They're
is that
not,
a bad
mostly.
book is easily forgotten. A bad show, one that costs hundreds of millions to make, not so much.
I mean, that is true. On the one hand, a book and comic is literally just wasting the papers that can get recycled later, whereas this show quite literally wastes millions to be made official and, you know, be shown to a wider audience. I guess that is a fair comparison, but at the exact same time, they're also trying to interconnect them all, whereas if you don't read Legends, you're not really missing much. Like, you have cool stories, but you can literally ignore them. Like, they're taking their own characters in different stories and places. I think the best example for this would be, like, the Jedi Knight trilogies of games with Kyle Katarn. You don't need to know who he is. Like, you can literally care less about him. Same thing, for example, with, like, Jedi Knight Jedi Outcast, which is Jedi Academy, that is. Which is literally just having an OC character named Jaden. You can literally not care about his story because, again, it has two endings, and even then, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? You choose the good side, he's like a Jedi alongside the others that practice on Luke's academy. If you choose the bad side, it becomes an interesting scenario with a new Sith But at the exact same time, it's like, do you really need to follow that story for the main plot of it? I think that's probably the main reason for it. The shows are trying to interconnect with both the prequels, the original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy. Whereas in Legends, you can quite literally have those things as separate stories and you don't even need to read them, because in the grand scheme of things, they don't impact the story, the main story, that much. I think the only one that did was the stuff with Luke and Palpatine, but even then, you can literally skip them, and at the end of the day, they don't impact things that much. I don't know. It's a weird stretch I'm trying to justify here, and it's not even a good justification. I'm just babbling and yapping. Moral of the story is one can be literally skipped and only read or watched if you are intrigued by it. The other one is unfortunately trying to tie itself to the story in its entirety and ruining it more and more.
Star Wars is bad. I'm saying I like some entries more than others, but I don't think that's particularly bad. I think most of Star Wars has been consistently inconsistent. I think that
that is good, actually. Consistently inconsistent.
Is Attack of the Clones. For me, this is where Star Wars was ruined for me. But also, Attack of the Clones is where Star Wars stopped mattering. Now, there are worse, I should rephrase that. There are worse pieces of Star Wars media out there. The holiday special exists after all. But
oh boy.
Attack of the Clones is a film
we went there.
So incredibly...
My boy really went there. He introduced the holiday special. Do we really need to cover that? Moral of the story is, the creator himself, George Lucas, literally said if he had the time and a sledgehammer to find every single physical copy of that show, he would smash it. That's how bad it is.
Boring. Even as a kid, I fell asleep watching it multiple times. I could barely get through it the first time I watched it. And in hindsight, nothing stands out to me other than bad dialogue.
I don't like sand.
The memes.
As a kid, this is where I realized I didn't really care what happened next. I didn't care where Vader went. I didn't care where the Empire went. I didn't care what happened to the Clone Wars. Nothing mattered to me. So I just sort of shut down and forgot about it.
I think my story is a bit more crazier because as a kid, I had my dad with me, and the big problem was he would quite literally just fast forward through the movies. He would literally skip like the romance dialogue and everything else, and I would just be standing there watching either the action, some of the dialogue interactions, and that's it. I basically remember it mainly for its action stuff because my dad would literally cut out some of the segments or fast forward through them to basically save me the pain. Like, when I first watched those movies on my own, I was literally introduced to Jar Jar that way. The Phantom Menace was literally something my dad would so fast forward so often. I didn't even know Jar Jar was a thing until I watched it myself, and I was like, wait, that's where the guy was? I thought it was like from an extended media or something. Like, I didn't know he was in the movies. That's how crazy it was for me. So again, like, everyone has their different experiences with the stuff, but yeah, different experiences and the memories being gathered, I guess. Maybe that's why I like the prequels so much, is because it was just family stuff that I spent time with. Same thing with the original trilogy, just family movies and whatnot. I guess it's kind of fun that way to consider, but everyone has their different experiences in how they absorb the Star Wars series. So, yeah.
Episode 3 is a far better film than Attack of the Clones, and that's great, but I think I liked it more because Attack of the Clones destroyed any expectations I had for this saga. When you're not expecting anything good, passable is a masterpiece. I just didn't have the passion for Star Wars. Episode 3 didn't really renew that either. I had other things at the time I was obsessed with. I mentioned in last week's video, Harry Potter was a big thing, but even then, that was one of many other things Star Wars competed against.
That is still the craziest commercial for a Game Boy Advance promoting Pokemon.
I think a lot of the fans who are angry at Disney now grew up loving the Star Wars prequels. I was not one of them. I grew up on the original trilogy, so I burned out on Star Wars maybe earlier than a lot of they did with the prequels when they came out. And don't forget, when I was a kid, the games weren't all masterpieces. I didn't play Knights of the Old Republic until much later. I didn't play The Force
Still haven't
Unleashed
played that
until
one.
much later because
That
I was
one
in
I've
high
played.
school when it came out. You know, Old Republic, that came out when I was in middle school. I played that one in high school too. You know, these were much later for me. When I was a kid, the games I played was Masters of Terras Kasai and the movie tie-ins, which aren't good. They're not good movie. They're not good games. They are not good games at all. Masters of Terras Kasai I have a soft spot for, but the game is clunky, it's a mess, and even the inclusion of Mara Jade does not redeem this game whatsoever. By the time the good Star Wars games came out that everyone talks about, I was already emotionally done with Star Wars. And there were other games too, but they were PC exclusives, and I had a Windows 95, so couldn't really run those.
Unfortunate.
My PC can't run those, but I digress. And even then, we were making fun of the Legends canon long before Disney canon showed up.
Oh, yeah.
For example, Boba Fett. The fandom blew him up to be this huge figure, thanks in part to the novels.
And guy falls in a little stationary pit more times than you can count. Literally, legendary bounty hunter falls in a hole 3 to 4 times. A stationary hole.
But in the original trilogy, the guy maybe has 3 lines. And he first
maybe
appears in that
5.
ridiculous holiday special. And he's beaten by a blind Han Solo by accident.
Poking him
It's
with a
only thanks to
stick.
Dark Empire, the same work that inspired the Rise of Skywalker, that Boba Fett got a second chance. And the writers took that chance to develop a really compelling character. But that character is not in the films.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not forget, there were tons of other ideas that Disney Star Wars had handled better than the old Star Wars. And one of them is the Mandalorians. I mean,
Okay, let me just hear him out.
have you ever read Karen Travis's old books with the Mandalorians? She tries to make them out to be the true heroes of the galaxy, better than the Jedi or anyone else. But it ends up coming across as very, I hate to say the word Mary Sue-ish, but that's how they feel in Travis's works. A lot of modern Mandalorian lore is basically a revision of Travis's initial ideas. And you can thank Dave Filoni and the Clone Wars for a lot of that, which salvaged a very convoluted, very author-pettish idea into something good. And Filoni has continued this throughout his modern Disney Plus Star Wars shows.
This is the way.
But these are the things you can only appreciate if you've read the original texts that Travis created. These are
Which
words
I
that
haven't.
fans at the time and fans to this day still criticize. Except, again, by fans just reading articles on Wikipedia and not the original text.
What's this obsession with Wikipedia?
I think YouTube really...
At this point, you just say Wikipedia. Like, even Wikipedia wouldn't be that into details. It's just someone reading off of Wikipedia 1-to-1.
Screwed up how Star Wars fandom is currently. In a way that's unique to Star Wars because of all the level of lore analyses, the multiple hour-long reviews of all the Star Wars films.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where it's almost expected whenever anything new Star Wars comes out, you're going to get a 3-hour video by someone complaining about every single frame of the show. The level of analysis has really recontextualized how people experience both the current canon and the Legends canon. It's not through reading the books, sometimes out of order like I did in the library. You don't pick up a random book and read it and then figure out you've missed some things and have to go back. It's not through actually playing the games. It's through some guy on YouTube or some girl filtering all the ideas out.
The girl would be a rarity.
And then telling you what to think about it. You are not given the option to consider or contemplate. You are spoon-fed your opinion to you. And while we had zines and magazines and guidebooks back when I was a kid, it's not the same as someone coming up on screen like I am right now and dictating their opinion to you
The
and
media
telling
has
you
changed.
what points to regurgitate in online discourse. Online discussion of Star Wars is an echo of an echo of an echo. An echo of the books in
Echo,
Wikipedia,
echo.
an echo of Wikipedia on YouTube, and an echo of that YouTuber's opinion through your words.
By that point, why don't we turn it into the ultimate echo?
And that's all Star Wars discourse is now. It's filtered Either way, you're not getting the dialogue, descriptions, anything from the original books. You're getting a summary, and then you imagine the rest of it. And that's the thing. I don't think Star Wars will ever live up to the Star Wars you invent in your mind, because Star Wars is no longer a franchise. It's no longer a book, it's no longer a game, it's no longer a movie, it's no longer a show. It's no longer a comic, it's no longer art, it's no longer actors, it's no longer special effects. Star Wars is an idea. You see that now too, where modern fans claim the original films are flawless, only to slowly look so disappointed when confronted with the original material. They've elevated the original sagas to these unattainable levels. Nothing could be as good as Star Wars films they imagine. Even Star Wars can't live up to the version of Star Wars they have in their heads. Case in point, when they try to improve it.
Oh yeah, the reimagined scenes.
Only to rise to the emotional drama. So every story, even the good ones.
The point is, everyone does need to win to win. Okay.
So every story, even the good ones, have to be bad to elevate the idea that Star Wars was.
Pushing identity politics and the message. They done woke it up.
There were like screws in the wall.
They done
When we
woked it up.
see certain
That's still a
architecture, it's
crazy
just
phrase.
bricks. You know, it's not smooth stone or...
Number 11, please God, make it stop.
This is one of the reasons why I find The Last Jedi so fascinating, because in many ways, it's one of the few entries in the saga to actually analyze the impact of Star Wars' legacy. How the legends we create about the original film outstretch our imagined hero fantasies for it.
Yes, the most hated man in the galaxy, but you saw there was conflict inside him. You believed that he wasn't gone, that he could be turned.
And I became a legend.
Luke struggling with temptation, that's in the original trilogy. Constantly. Why would we assume Luke stops being that way just because he didn't slay Vader once?
This EU crafted an extraordinary future for Luke, transforming him into one of the most potent Jedi in history and a fan favorite.
Luke being some incredible badass isn't something inherent to the original films. It's something the legends canon created, but even then, half of Luke's victories were due to his wits and cleverness.
And even then, I'm pretty sure Han, Leia, and others were also there, so it's not like he was the only one who gave the W to the entire series. Like, he was one of the main characters.
Lightsaber.
Want to really get into the nitty-gritties, which would include stories of Luke that I don't even know about, and I'm excited to read and understand.
But when someone on YouTube sums up the old stories, you just hear, Luke beats this guy. And your mind fills in his solution to how he beat that guy with a lightsaber. Because that's how all problems are solved in the prequel trilogy. Lightsabers. Even Yoda, a master of the Force, deals with Dooku using a lightsaber rather than his skills with the Force or wits. And that set up a lot of fans, I feel, for disappointment. And it's one of the reasons why I personally...
What was that infamous phrase that basically didn't happen in the movie? It's like from Space Odyssey or something like that. I don't know. I remember there was like that phrase. Maybe someone will remember it. That basically tells you you fill in the gaps or remember something completely differently from what it was supposed to be. Case in point, Darth Vader's infamous Luke, I am your father, when in reality, no. No, I am your father, in comparison to Luke, I am your father. I think that was like the big correlation between both lines. Basically, you fill in the gaps yourself, or like remember it in a different way as opposed to what it was. Which is interesting, but again, that's kind of fans' way of thinking. I don't know. I can't say for certain if that's what I'm trying to point out. Maybe I'm just stretching here, like, way too far. to prove a point. Let's move on.
Personally don't like the prequels. Everything is resolved with violence, rather than cleverness, rather than wit, rather with strategy.
This weapon is your life.
So many older fans do not like the lightsaber fights in the prequels. They're overcomplicated, drawn out, and sometimes boring. The best two fights are easily the Darth Maul fight on Naboo and the final confrontation with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and the latter of which I feel lasts just too long. The best moments of the fight are the initial trading of blows and the final exchange where Obi-Wan leaves Anakin for dead, but because these fights are extensions of the emotional conflict, that aspect of it is the most compelling. But swinging back and forth over a river of lava,
I just remember it from the Lego
noise,
game.
And I don't care. Lightsabers aren't why lightsaber fights are interesting. The choreography's cool, but it's not as important as good conflict. In the original Star Wars, there were 3 lightsaber duels, and none of them were flashy. But each one had emotional impact. They are memorable.
Yeah.
Disney also uses lightsaber duels sparingly, with The Last Jedi having 0 traditional lightsaber battles in it. Luke defeats Kylo Ren not with a sword, but with wits. I don't think I have as much of an issue
no
with the Star Wars
offense, but
fandom getting angry at Disney.
They quite literally use lightsabers. Like, I don't know, he pulls out some magical, illusional Sith spit logic and manifests a lightsaber that can clash with a real lightsaber, I think. Maybe I'm misremembering it. Chances are he might actually just have been... No, he was dodging, actually, now that I think about it. Literally just never attacked him with the lightsaber. He was just dodging him, like straight up evading him. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess he didn't really fight. Though I will say Rey and Kylo fought Snoke's guards, so I guess that's a notable lightsaber duel, I guess. Like, that one is clearly a lightsaber duel. So, when it comes to Luke versus Ben, or I guess Kylo Ben, yeah, they might not have actually clashed lightsabers, but Rey and Kylo were fighting Snoke's guards, so that's a lightsaber duel, I guess? I don't know. Would you even classify that? It is a duel, but not a lightsaber one, but it does involve lightsabers, so it's a lightsaber duel. I'm just gonna say it out loud. It's a lightsaber duel. No need to justify it.
If they didn't get so damn personal about it. These are movies, and at the end of the day, most movies are trash, and a few are good, and some are great. But the fandom targets individuals involved with production, harassing them until their emotional and physical well-beings are put in jeopardy.
That is still
Kelly Marie
a lot
Tran
of
and Daisy Ridley are two
Griffin
recent
nonsense.
examples of this. The prequels, the level of hate sent to Ahmed Best and Jake Lloyd, it's beyond cruel, and both of them suffered from it. Ahmed Best was pushed into a profound depression, while Lloyd's latent schizophrenia was triggered by cruel bullying both online and in person. You'd think the Star Wars fandom might learn from that. And as we can see with Kelly Marie Tran and Daisy Ridley...
You think the Star Wars series would be... My boy, franchises and their fandoms have become so deranged. I'm surprised people don't just straight up cut off the entire franchises and cease making them because of this deranged nonsense. What was it from a certain show that I remember? Literally had one of the creators who just had a little bit of an episode to focus on like 1 or 2 characters was literally bullied to oblivion because he gave those 2 characters spotlights. It's like, so you're bullying someone, the creator, for literally making something and just having this episode focus on these characters. And it's like such a nonsensical, illogical step. I don't even know what to say. It's completely illogical. Like, straight up illogical. It has no purpose or meaning other than just attacking the creator to, what, change it? alter it? Like, what's the point of it? It serves no purpose. This is like the equivalent of starting a riot for the sake of not cutting the grass in fields. Why would you even go out of your way to make such an aggressive, what was it, riot and group of people for the sake of a little grass field that needs to be cut? It's such a illogical, misguided, and nonsensical approach that it just makes you wonder how long until humanity literally sinks below the iceberg and starts descending into literal madness. Chances are not so far away from that goal. Sooner or later, we will reach it.
You'd be wrong. Daisy Ridley reportedly was so stressed preparing for the role of Rey that she developed ulcers. Both Ridley and Tranmere bullied off social media after receiving a barrage of cruel messages. And that's just those two actors. That's not getting into John Boyega. That's not getting into Mark Hamill. That's not getting into Rian Johnson. That's not getting into J.J. Abrams. That's not getting into Dave Filoni. That's not getting into any of the
Dave deserves it, though.
Any of the other shows.
To some extent.
This is just two examples.
Fuck this movie. Fuck this movie and fuck everyone in it.
At the end of the day, no matter how much you blame them for ruining Star Wars, it's too late. The next stage of Star Wars fandom is already here. Now, when I got married, I took a trip with my spouse to Disney World, where we went to Galaxy's Edge as part of the park. And as you know, they'll have staff members dressed up as the characters. They'll show up, do a little performance, and then yada, yada, yada. So one came out as
kind of
Kylo
Disney
Ren,
stuff.
One came out as Rey, another came out as Chewie. Anyway, the reason I bring this up at all is because every single kid there was so excited to see Rey, to see Kylo Ren. But Chewie, they sort of took him for granted. He was just there. He was part of the set.
The underrated
we didn't see
carpet.
Like for the kids at Star Tours when you'd see C-3PO or R2-D2, or you'd go down, into the Empire Strikes Back sequence. But they got excited whenever things involved new characters. Whenever something they recognized from their childhood came out to greet them. And that's the next stage. When I was a teen, I couldn't imagine anyone liking the prequels, but, well, there you are. You clearly like the prequels. I'm guarantee some of the people watching this love the prequels and don't get why I can't stand them so much. And are actually
I get it. Like, you have the right to hate them. I'm not even gonna try to defend them like they are garbage. But it's a guilty pleasure for me, and I will admit, I love them too. Like, I don't hate you, or am I confused about the fact that you don't like them? You have every right to do so. But I'm a different. I'm away from the pack, a different breed, a different patch note from the rest. So I could neither convince you nor blame you for hating them. Like, you have the right to do so. Same way I have the right to like them. For my guilty pleasure. And the memes.
Saying why I'm wrong for disliking the prequels. You have to understand, too, we are at that stage where kids born the year The Force Awakens came out are 9. A generation has been raised on Disney-era Star Wars.
Yeah,
and they're
that
not
is true.
online. They're not watching your 10-hour videos. They're growing up with it. And if you think, oh, no, they'll recognize this slop. It's not like the old stuff. They'll know. They can tell. Will they? Because I think the prequels are slop and you love them. Let's be perfectly blunt.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars isn't a series, it's an idea. It's whatever you grew up with. And if you hate Star Wars, that's because it contradicts the stuff you grew up with. Put yourself in the mindset of these kids. They are you with the prequels. How I was with you. It's that. It's just that replaying itself forever, ad nauseum. And for better or worse,
Will it though?
They're going to respond just like all of us did when we grew up. And when we grew up. when they see something disappointing, they will say, and I'm telling you this right now, it will happen. They will say, Star Wars is ruined forever.
I mean, yeah, with this rinse repeat, I guess you're not wrong. I guess I will say as a final, goodbye, I understand what you mean by Star Wars being an idea, but I will say I think it's more so a different art form for each generation. You had the original trilogy, some of the stuff from it, the prequel trilogy, some of the stuff from that, and now the sequel trilogy with all the stuff. Everyone's gonna have their preferences. The big difference is, are you gonna show the major differences and subsequently how we ended up where we are or not? Overall, I guess everyone can have their joys and everyone can love what they grew up with or subsequently enjoyed. I can't say anything to convince them otherwise. They have their own life, I have mine. But yeah, I think a different art medium is what fits Star Wars the best. It has its different generations, and ultimately we'll see what happens later on, because chances are they make more movies, we might be in serious trouble. More episodes, that is. Can you imagine if they make an episode 10? God forbid, but the idea has not left my mind yet. We might get one. Who knows?